Hello, dear listeners out there, and welcome again to our visitor and guest speaker today, Kurly Marwaha, on the Healing Matrix. It's been a huge pleasure yesterday starting the journey through your life that you shared with us, and all the insights, experiences, challenges, opportunities, and the amazing shifts and miraculous happenings that you shared with us. Was really intrigued. I couldn't get my mind off it the rest of the day yesterday, and had subsequently amazing other questions that I want to add today to our interview and conversation. And just a recap for those listeners who haven't been on the call yesterday in our broadcast, Kurly Marwaha is a master in Feng Shui and energetics practitioner for many years. You first met Feng Shui 23 years ago as a child in that transition, rites of passage into what used to be considered adulthood. Now it's considered adolescence. And you had an amazing healing experience with it, which is part of the reason you chose to continue this path, deepen it, and even be considered by one of the two major masters in Feng Shui as the master and part of the elite that really holds this knowledge and wisdom that is so beneficial to people, I would say, on many levels, which you will be explaining to us. And we'll be diving into many questions about the benefits of Feng Shui, how you apply it, how you can learn it, how you can receive the consultations yourself. We were talking also about your amazing journey, both in the corporate world, where you were excelling in giving yourself in the most wholesome way, I understood, because you really have this secret tool, I would say, to realize that you can make of any situation the best and be one with people. And particularly what stuck with me was you were interested in people around you. And that skill of stepping out of our own narcissistic and inward-looking, navel-gazing position, which a lot of people are in and then get very ill from it, you do the opposite. You really find that from your inner strength, looking out and including everybody in your work, and as if it was miraculous, work is flowing better, success is coming your way because you're really tuned into everybody and the greater universe, and into your own needs, because I think it's very important we don't lose ourselves in that. Although I understand in your journey at the end, with that challenging schedule that you were living in a few companies in the corporate world, you came to that point where you realized you had to make a major change. And that's where we kind of left off yesterday. Challenging night, driving back tired, stopping 2 times or so on the gas stations really to get that little bit of a nap in, the cat nap, to get yourself home. Desperate journey home. You realized then also you had several journeys before and several events before that were similar in terms of tiredness. You took that time out, went that long weekend to Glastonbury, had literally an enlightenment or an epiphany, and then you were sitting at your desk and going, oh no, holy moly, what have I done? Because you decided on the spur of the moment to hand in your notice, which is commendable and courageous, and very few people would dare doing that. But you really followed that inner calling. And I think that's what we really try to promote in this, the Healing Matrix, is that we want people to realize that inner connection, that inner calling, that trust to what we feel ourselves is what we really need to follow at the end of the day. And risk making what we call sometimes mistakes, or as some people would like to call it, having more experience from which we can build the future. Because as they said also in the NASA, Apollo 13 would have never happened if they wouldn't have made all the mistakes and the hiccups that they had. And you, on the other hand, because you're so in touch with also your Feng Shui work and your energetic work, you actually sailed literally from a place of courage, transition, and jumping and growing those immediate wings and flying into kind of crashing at your desk. But then the miracle happened. And I was wondering if we could start there for the listeners. I don't know if you would like to add anything that's pertinent to you, you'd like to add from yesterday to fill in the listeners.
I think the thing that I'd like to add is, first of all, thank you very much for having me on again, and giving me the opportunity to continue this conversation with you, Hans, and all the amazing people out there listening to our voices right now. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules, because, you know, when we do that, when we step out of ourselves into something and give the universe an opportunity to shower us with blessings, either new information, epiphanies, just anything at all, it's well worth it. The thing that I would add is this, that, you know, the way that we talk through my story, it does sound truly wonderful and miraculous and very easy sailing and intuitive, and my God, this woman must be really in tune, right? A little angel or something. But I have to be really honest and complete that picture. I've been through some pretty horrific things in my life, and you know, if you do take the time to get in touch with the simple truth that the only reason that you are worthy of success or anything good, happiness, contentment, peace of mind, peace of heart, is because you exist. The fact that you were born, that you're alive, that's the simple, true, single reason that any one of us deserves to have a good life and to make it through these, they're called in personal development learning experiences, aren't they? But this is when, forgive me for the phrase, the shit hits the fan. And I've had a lot of those. So that's the bit that I want to fill in. Good. And just be really, really authentic and say, I'm as human as you are, and we're all going through it. And there's hope.
Great to fill that in. I always jump over those. My mind seems to eliminate all the negative experience and it's just focus on the positive and roll on. So yeah. I'm delighted you added that again, because I know also as a child, you mentioned what a challenging time it was, those long nights on your own, not sleeping and getting maybe 2 hours if you did, and going through that desert experience really many times and many times over, which really built that inner strength that you're portraying now, that you know, gives you those angel wings, I suppose.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I was hearing you saying that after you quit your job and you came home, and then you were like really in a state because you wondered, well, suddenly now you had all these people around you helping you, you could delegate the work, now you were on your own. How will you find the clients? How will you reach out on your own? And you said you were doing something that was called a Feng Shui activation.
Yeah.
And maybe diving into Feng Shui right there, that sounds like it was a real pivotal point and a very powerful exercise and tool that you're using to getting yourself into a new state, which is more receptive and also then will bring in the successes possibly. Would you explain what happened there for you? And then the subsequent, just maybe repeat what happened with the phone call that you got for those who haven't been listening in yesterday.
Yeah. Okay, so in short, what happened is I quit my job. I did it in a nice way. I wanted to leave them in a great space, you know, amazing organization, great guy at the head of it, a guy called Stan. And I had this great day the following day, freedom, right? Rest, contentment. And then the following day, I sat at my desk and I thought, oh God, I have no idea what to do. How does one find a client? No clue whatsoever. How does one have that conversation with your first client? How does one? There was lots and lots of questions, but this big, almost not quite sense of panic of what do I do now? Who do I call? And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to the thing that I know, Feng Shui that's done so many amazing things for me in my life. I used to use Feng Shui when I was in the corporate world then as well. You see, it helped me with a lot of the successes. It helped me with keeping my energy high. You need a lot of energy when you're putting those sorts of hours in. And so I used a thing called a Feng Shui activation. And it's a technical term used in the industry, and all it means basically is that I did a little bit of Feng Shui, and as a result of that, I then had I had this thing open up for me, whereby I think it was about 2.5 hours later, I was basically sat at myself Googling, what do other people do in this situation? And I hadn't really got very far. I was very enthralled with what I was reading. It's really interesting, amazing people, but I didn't have an answer. And out of the blue, my phone rang. I picked it up. Hi. It was a lovely, lovely, amazing lady who is also doing great work in the world. She's a coach, an executive coach in the corporate world, and she rang me out the blue and she said to me in such an apologetic voice, you know, really tentatively, she said, Kurly, I know you are really, really busy and you probably haven't got the time. I'll completely work with you however you want to do this, but is there any way you would be willing to come to my house, let me bring some people together, and basically, could you share some of your Feng Shui secrets with them, please? Because I really think it will help them. They're so amazing, but you know, we all have stuff happening in our lives. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a miracle. I was sat there breathless thinking, oh, this is so good. Right. So what a Feng Shui active. So basically, that was a Wednesday. On the Sunday afternoon, this lady in her beautiful home brought 20, maybe it was 25 people together, and I did a talk, and then I had my first 7 clients, amazing clients, and that was the start of the journey. There's been many ups and downs since, obviously. And so what is a Feng Shui activation?
Yeah, very important to go into that, because I think a lot of people will say now, but why does that not happen to me? I've tried and tried and tried, and you jump out of this amazing job and into the abyss, and there come the new clients along, just like that. So what is this Feng Shui activation? Could it help other people? And
of course it can, 100% it can. I'm just picking up my phone. I'm going to go onto my WhatsApp with your permission. I'm going to scroll down and I am going to find a text message, a WhatsApp message that I received 2 days ago. And this was from a client. And she said in her message, I'm going to literally read exactly what it says. It says, just over 24 hours of yesterday, meaning from yesterday's activation, and ... 1 booking on Airbnb, 3 ticket sales for the event tomorrow, 2 inquiries for next month's event.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Something is working.
Yeah.
What is it?
Another client from a similar activation the same week has had a difficult journey with fertility. On the same day that I got this, I had a message from her with a GIF that showed a pregnancy test saying pregnant. Yeah. So, okay, what is a Feng Shui activation? I can see that you're all sat at the ends of your chair and you're like, come on, stop talking and just tell us.
How do we do this?
Right. Okay, so I need to give you a little bit of background before I tell you exactly what it is. So most people believe Feng Shui to be about furniture, decor, the very design related elements of a house, right? This is not incorrect, but it's a very small part of the Feng Shui equation. Okay, in Feng Shui, the way that I use Feng Shui with people, I always explain to them, if you imagine a triangle like so, okay, at the top of your triangle is you. Feng Shui is not about the building. The building is the tool. The environment is the tool that we are working with. Feng Shui is about you. It's got to be about you. Why has it got to be about you? Because Hans, you've moved into this particular home you live in, right?
Yeah.
And you have goals in your life.
Yeah.
But if I had moved into the same building, my goals would have been different.
Yeah.
Right? So at the top tip of our triangle, our pyramid of success is you, the listener, okay? And so there's this thing called personal energetics. It's basically how we map out who you are as an energetic being. The spiritual level, at the mental level, that's your thinking. The emotional level, that's your feelings. And the physical level, that's your biology and how you interact with this reality that we're living in now. Okay, so let's go back to our triangle. So the very first aspect, there's 3 parts to this Feng Shui and the activation. There is you, understanding you. How do you operate as an energetic being? Okay. Right. The second point of our triangle down here, okay, is your home or your space. So we can do Feng Shui in a garden, on a farm. We can, in ancient China, they used Feng Shui very powerfully to select burial grounds. Okay, so it's not just about inside of the building. It can be whole developments, it can be gardens, parks, you name it, whole cities. So the second part is the environment. The third part of our triangle, okay, is right there, and it's the energy of time. Now, when I first mention this to people, energy of time, it can feel like a little bit of an abstract concept, but then I go straight in and give them an example or two of energy of time. Okay. So let me ask you a question, Hans. Are you a morning person, an evening person, a night owl, or middle of the day, full sunlight?
I think I'm an evening person.
Okay, so tell me, how do you know that you're an evening person when every single day is always different?
Just one moment, I'll turn this off. I think I was forced to be a morning person when I was a child because of the German system. And then later in my life, I realized with living in different cultures that actually I excel in the evening. And when everybody is in bed already, I'm still up. I'm getting the creative ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, I would even say I'm a night owl because if I wake up at night, I download whole lesson plans and things like that.
Yeah.
And in the morning, if I would get up early, if I exercise early, I'm tired the whole day.
Right.
So that's, you know, where I'm feeling I'm more the evening person.
Okay.
Exercising in the afternoon.
Okay, so this is something you know for sure, right? Through having lived X amount of years in your life.
Yeah.
It's trialed and tested. You know this for a fact, right? Okay, so technically speaking, however, every single day is different, yet you know at a certain point in the day, you come to life, yeah?
Yeah.
It's because time carries an energetic signature.
Yeah.
Okay. So another way of explaining this is every year in every part of the world, regardless of where you live, okay, so if you're listening to this in Australia, it applies to you. If you're listening to this in America, this applies to you. If you're listening to this in the UK where we are, it applies to you. And the same in South America, and so on and so forth. Because every single autumn, the trees know, you know what, it's time to do that little shimmy dance and shake off our leaves, right? And yet the animals know as well, yep, it's autumn. We need to change our pattern. It's time. It's time.
Right.
So time carries an energetic signature.
So they're rhythms and
Yeah.
relationships of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this system of Feng Shui, this is the ancient system, the way it was originally designed.
Yep.
They recognize that people carry energy, places carry energy, and that time carries energy. And when you put the three together and you analyze each individually,
Yep.
you understand those signatures and how they affect each other. When you bring these together, you can point energy in a particular direction when you're clear on what the goal is, and you can achieve magic. This is called a Feng Shui activation.
Okay.
So the reason why I love Feng Shui activations, and I use them every day with my clients. Yesterday I had a lady WhatsApping me with questions, you know, and I knew they were going to come through because I told her I want you to go out and I want you to purchase X type of plants because we're going to do an activation. We're going to place them in a particular place.
Okay.
And you watch what happens. Yeah. So a Feng Shui activation, the great thing about Feng Shui activations, this is what's going to get all your listeners really excited, by the way.
Go on.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Are you ready?
Ready. Let's go.
Okay. See, in this world, the first thing most people think about, right, regardless of whether you're a poor person or a rich person, you know, wherever you put yourself on that financial asset scale, right, the first thing we think about when somebody says we're going to do something is, we generally, through conditioning, we come from a place of lack. Okay, it's usually our first thoughts. For some people it's around money, some people it's around time, some people it's around effort, whatever it may be. And usually the first thing, you know, people generally, when I talk to them, get very excited about the Feng Shui. Okay. But then usually one of their top three questions is, do I have the money for this? Do I have the time, the energy? How much is it going to disrupt my life? Well, a Feng Shui activation doesn't mean redecorating your house. It doesn't mean knocking down walls and restructuring the property. It doesn't mean taking out 2 days from your busy life, your children, all these things that you're juggling in order to make this miracle happen. Feng Shui activations do require a little bit of planning and forethought, but generally speaking, what they're very, very simple, and they usually take somewhere between, I have clients like the lady whose message I read out to you did that activation in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
She didn't need masses of industrial, you know, specialized equipment. And it's because she's done activations before. We're doing a series for her to really build up power and momentum over a year. And so they're cost effective, they're time effective, they're energy and effort effective. So that's why we do Feng Shui activations. What is a Feng Shui activation? It's the placement of something that is tapping into each of these energetics, and it's done at a particular date, at a particular time. This is non-negotiable, by the way. The date and time, because you can only tap into, you can only tap into the signature of time if you tap into that particular time, right?
Be on time, yes. Honor that, honor time, yes.
Absolutely. And so what I do is, and this is the bit where the mastery and the years and years of study, and I continue to study, by the way.
Yeah.
I've done this every year now for I know you're going to be doing the maths about my age now, listeners, but I've been doing this now for, in total, since I used it for my own healing, I think it's going to be either 30 or 31 years, something like that, right? And every year I carry on doing learning. So that bit you probably won't be able to do by yourselves. You would need me or somebody else, but it doesn't have to be an expensive business. And once we've given you the information on what you need to simulate that energy, what time it needs to be done, and the process, because these are individual according to the goal, the type of home, your personal energy, then you just get to it and you just let your miracle happen and be open to it. It's
Beautiful.
really, really simple stuff. And that's what a Feng Shui activation is. Very quickly, Hans, have you heard of, and I'm talking to you and asking you these questions, but I'm talking to all of you listeners, right? Have you heard of acupuncture?
I have had acupuncture many times, yes.
Okay, so you've heard of it because you've had acupuncture. Acupuncture is something that most people are aware of these days. They might even have used. It's available in many countries widely now. And the reason why I want to talk to you about acupuncture is basic Feng Shui of the human physical body. Feng Shui activations work in the same way. So an acupuncturist will first of all look at your body, will ask you what the problem is that you want to deal with, same as I would. Then they will probably do a little bit of a check out of your body, see what's going on there. Then what they'll do is they'll work out, okay, if it's to do with muscles in the right side, for example, they'll work out, okay, which flow of energy do I need to look at, right? So they'll identify that energy meridian that's running through your body, that's the one to focus on in this, right, on this occasion. Then they'll decide, okay, well, if this is the issue and that's the energy meridian, what's going on with the energy there? And they'll find a particular spot on your body, and what they will do is they will choose their tool of choice, and they'll go in and they'll do the action or activation for a certain amount of time, and then they'll deactivate it and pull out and let the energy do its thing. Sometimes one treatment is enough and sometimes several. This is exactly what a Feng Shui activation does, but it does it in using your environment. Does that help? Is it clear?
Amazing. Yeah, nice comparison with the acupuncture, because after all, we're a living organism. And I think unfortunately people don't realize that even if we're in a building that has physical walls that appear dead, there's still energy involved, there's still movement involved, the air is moving, warmth is moving, the actual matter is energy. So you're working really with the most subtle bodies, bringing them together, harmonizing and synergizing them in a way, as I understand.
Yeah, even when you buy a new built house these days, Hans, the developer in their guidance to you when you're moving into your new home will say, you know, you want to air the building, keep the air vents open because the walls and the materials are living entities and they need some shrinkage or expansion or whatever it may be.
And they need to breathe. I mean, I'm fascinated with this because, I mean, what you've just explained kind of highlights why I was so intrigued when I sat there at the dinner table with you after the 5 Flavors of Health Club event in Reading, where you shared how you really managed to create your life as a balance. And I see this triangle now in the balance of energy, time, and yourself in that whole, in the environment, in time, yourself, and how you've created your schedule even in terms of your self-care and living your own life and your own joys and passions for yourself, and then seeing how you integrate that also with others. And I was just wondering, that was a very interesting part, because you lived so much in the corporate world, just giving, giving, giving. And then I hear now you've found this amazing journey where you have found that balance. What do you do for yourself, and maybe what would you suggest to the listeners really to look to, that they can really strengthen themselves and find that center again and that passion inside to live their own, but then also live it with others and for others?
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I would say, Hans. I would say, first of all, you've got to be really, really honest with yourselves in a way that you've never been honest before. And I am not suggesting, by the way, that we have dishonest people listening to this podcast. What I'm saying is we think we're being honest, and we do. Most of us are wonderful, truthful beings, but we need to move to, and this is what really changed it for me. When I went off for my little mini retreat in Glastonbury, a really confused lady, knowing that something needed to change, that it wasn't I was unhappy, but I was getting some really strong signals that something needed to shift. I had to step into a space of a new level of integrity with myself. You know, I had the fortunate situation of I knew personal energetics, so I could pull up information to help me understand myself to a whole new level, right? And what I would say to your listeners is sit down, get a piece of paper in front of you and ask yourself, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? If there were no limitations and nobody said anything to me, if money was no object, what would I choose to spend my time on? How would I choose to live? Would I want people around me? Would I want to be in the city or out in nature? Would I want to access both? What is it that I am doing or spending my time on right now, or how am I being right now that is not aligned to that particular vision? Because you need, if you get in your car, you pull out your sat nav, the first thing your sat nav's going to ask you is, where do you want to go? Right?
And he wants to be very specific too. I remember the wonderful film Total Recall.
Mm-hmm.
And Schwarzenegger gets into the taxi with a computer and he goes, "Go anywhere." And it's not in the program. Where do you want to go? And he would go anywhere. And it's isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So first of all, really soul search, and this, by the way, may not happen in 5 minutes, so don't expect to sit down and have all the answers jotted down in 5 minutes or even 5 hours. It's really interesting. We should talk about this, Hans, because I'm getting to a point in my world where it's time to step it up to the next level once again, right? So back in December I started journaling about the different areas of my life, and I carried on doing this. I allocated 15 hours a week to this, and I did this for 2 months into February, right? And as a result of that, stuff started shifting anyway by itself, because I was becoming more clear, right? And you could think, well, hang on a minute, 2 months, 15 hours per week, what the hell were you journaling about, Kurly? I was exploring. I was allowing myself to go in and just be open and just question after question. I love going to the mountains. I really enjoy that. See, just behind me there, that's my favorite place. If anybody's wondering, that's Snowdonia in North Wales. Amazing place. And you might find me there if you go there. And then I would say, okay, well, what is it I like about the mountains? Okay, well, what does it do for me? So really go into it is what I'm saying, not at a superficial level. That's what I mean by a whole new level of honesty. Once you've got that, your sat nav then wants to work out, where are you right now? So where are you right now? Be really honest about this again. What do you like about what's in your life? What do you dislike about what's in your life? Why do you dislike it? Is it that you dislike the fact that you have to be in the city for 2 days a week. Okay, well, what is it about that you dislike? Is it the fact that you're in the city, or is it the traveling to and from, or is it what you're doing there? So really, really go into it in a lot of detail. And then eventually what you want to do is you want to really open up to the idea that if you can think about it, now, who was it? Hans, help me out with this. If you can dream it, you can bring it about. There's some sort of quote like that. I think it's Henry Ford.
I think it was Henry Ford, yeah.
Yeah?
The V8 engine. It was clear he wanted to get it done in one block.
Yeah.
Everybody said impossible.
Yeah.
And at the end, he got it done because it was big enough. And he was clear enough who to pull in on the way because of the dream he had and the clarity.
Yeah. And it's true. This is what energetic living is about, by the way. Energetic living is not about being psychic. It's not about being, you know, a wizard or a witch or a, you know, a hippie or a weird person. Energetic living just means, quite simply, that you're truly in tune with yourself and what's around you. You're open to all the subtle signals that life is constantly giving you. Constantly. I'm going to pick this up and show it to you on screen. Just bring it right in. Yeah. It's just a rock. Can you see that?
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's a heart-shaped rock.
Yeah.
And I was walking along a very, there were no rocks in this area in Wales last trip. And I was kind of asking a question and having a kind of internal conversation with myself about, so, you know, what is it that I want from my heart space, and, you know, this sort of internal deep conversation. And then I arrived at a decision. And then I said to the universe, okay, fine. If this is right, because none of us can know for sure. We're all as human as each other, right? We're full of more questions than answers most of the time. Let's be really honest about this, right? And I said, okay, universe, if this is right, can you give me a sign within the next 10 minutes, please? Thank you very much. And I always say, and make it a sign that even I can't misunderstand.
Okay.
Right?
Clarity.
And I literally, I hadn't even finished the sentence fully when I kind of tripped over my own foot in a really clumsy manner, which I just walked like 10 miles and not tripped over my own feet, by the way. So this was unusual in of itself, but I kind of tripped over my own feet a little bit, landed on the floor, very unladylike manner, okay? Nothing graceful or elegant about this trip. And my hand fell on this rock.
Well, I can't get any closer than that.
Right? And there I was looking at a rock that's a perfect heart shape.
Yeah.
Right? And I got my answer. Yeah, go for it, Kurly. That's the right answer.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
I would
you, with those specific questions, are really also getting the specific answers. Because you're very clear, really, to emphasize that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I say be really honest.
Yeah.
When you know, for every one of you listening to this right now, you know, you might be sitting there thinking what I normally think in my very human way when I'm listening to an expert or somebody who's made it or something like that. I quite often think, yeah, but it's okay for you. Or, yeah, but you've got all this knowledge. Or, yeah, but. Or, yeah, but. And what I want to say to you is that, you know what, actually everything you need is already there for the answers that you need right now in your life. You've just got to really open up to whatever comes at you, because you know what, look, the answers I sometimes get are definitely not the answers I want. Sometimes the answers I get are exactly what I don't want to hear. And I'm like, no, I will not go there. Forget it. No. Why does it have to be that? You know, and all this resistance comes up.
Yeah.
But you know, if you want what you want, you've got to understand that it's quite often brought to you, not in the way you want it, but in the way you need it.
Yeah.
And one doesn't necessarily look like the other.
So do you find with that you sometimes are also called to get out of your comfort zone or the known spheres of knowledge that and experiences that you have accumulated, because you go, well, I don't know anything about this yet. Yet the answer is go there. And most people fearfully retreat to the known perimeters and don't leave the box.
Hands, the number one emotion that ruled my life for many years was fear.
Interesting.
Fear. And here's a really interesting thought for every single one of you. And this really shifted fear for me in a big way. So this doesn't mean I never felt afraid ever again, or for the last 5 years, I've not felt fear. I feel it daily, regularly it comes up, okay? But this one thought really helps me. You cannot be in the emotional space of love and the emotional space of fear at the same time. It's impossible. I've tried it. I've tried to test it. It's not possible.
Nice one.
So when your fear comes up, think of something or someone you love. Get yourself into a space of love. Okay, even if it's just a thought space. And watch what happens and take action from that spot. I'm not saying it's going to make taking that action any easier. I'm not saying that at all. Okay? Because let's face it, if you could do this action easily, then you wouldn't need the transformation in the first place, right? Transformation, by its definition, means changing one thing from another in a significant way, right?
Changing the form of the object or of the action or whatever you have in front of you. Exactly, yeah. Absolutely.
So get yourself into a space of love and then take action anyway, and be open to the idea that maybe, you know, it's not quite going to be quite as bad as I perceive it to be. Or maybe it's going to be that bad, but I'm still going to get through it and think, my God, that was worth it. I'm so glad I did it. Right? So that's what being open means. It doesn't mean having the answer on how it's going to be. It means you don't have any answers and you do it anyway.
Beautiful. The answers will reveal themselves on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're clear where you want to go.
Absolutely.
Even though you don't always like it.
Yeah, or even if you think it's not possible. You can't see how it could ever be possible. Can I share a little story with you? Do we have time?
Okay. And then we come back to the Feng Shui.
Okay, so so usually my stories will at some point in them have a Feng Shui activation. So I just want you to get used to that idea, please.
We'll look deeper than the story then.
Okay, so at the start of this year, last year, I decided that I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. Okay. It's in a different continent, a continent that means something special to me. My father grew up in Africa, not far from there, and I've never stepped foot in that continent. My father passed away this year. It will be 15 years. You know, there's a significance to it for me that's deeply personal. And so last year I signed up for it, and along the way I go to the mountains regularly, and in this place that I go to in Snowdonia, there's this one mountain ridge up to Mount Snowdon, which for me, you know, it's very scary. It's a knife edge like this, okay? Then it goes on for about a mile, and it's kind of this shape. And this way down, it's 1,500 feet sheer cliff, and this way down, it's 2,000 feet sheer cliff. And you basically have to walk either side of this. Right? And I've been wanting to do it for ages and ages. And don't worry, I can hear you saying she's crazy, she's a nutcase. Yes, in that respect I am, but it's my passion. You know, passion doesn't follow logic, does it? Yeah. And you like the things you like because you like them. And so I've signed up with this company to go and do Kilimanjaro, and something went wrong in the contract phase of that. Okay. And I ended up having a conversation with them, and the guy that runs this company is amazing, by the way. He's phenomenal. He's so good at what he does, Darren. And anyway, I did a vision board back in January, as I do most years, and on there I put a picture, and I'm going to take it off very quickly. My vision board is right in front of me, and I'm going to show you and your listeners. This is a postcard that I bought. Can you see what it says, Hans?
Hold it a bit to your left, maybe. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, I did it. I was so much a bit further away. It's just reflecting foot. So much foot. Sorry, no, it was
so much fun and sunny, and then there's a
sunny. Yeah.
And then there's a
and that is a picture of the actual sun, is it?
Yeah, that's a picture of Crib Goch. This is the thing that I want to do. Can you see it like a knife edge?
Yep, and I see there's a person there on the edge.
Yes, so this is just the postcard I purchased on there.
Yep.
And so I did a Feng Shui activation, and basically this guy rang me up and he said, Kurly, you know, for the stuff that kind of went a bit wrong there, I'm going to do something really special for you, and I'm going to take you to Crib Goch, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it in May, so it's coming up soon.
All right.
And so where I had no idea of how I would ever do this, it's just magically appeared, and it's going to happen and everything. And, you know, I'd love to talk to you after it if you want to again. But yeah, so magic does happen. And the whole thing about being open, and what I mean when I say, just to be really clear to all of you listening, is being open means you literally haven't got, forgive me, a friggin' clue how it could ever even be possible, let alone how it would actually happen, which is pretty much the case with Crib Goch here. I had no idea, wasn't even on my radar that it was possible or anything. And now, as if by magic, it's not only opened up the possibility, but it's definitely going to happen.
Wonderful, and sooner than you expected. And
yeah, and if you'd have asked me to write down all the different ways it could possibly have happened, I would never have put this possibility on there. And that's what energetic living is about as well. Okay. Holistic living and tapping into the matrix, as it's called, or source. It's about understanding this simple fact that if we all of your listeners and you and I, if we all gathered in a field or a spot or a big hall somewhere, and we put one thing on the board, and if we said, right, every one of you think of different ways that this could come about, we would still not be able, with the possibly hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of different ideas we write down, we would still have missed the majority of ways that this could happen.
I love the way you put it in this amazing image of the matrix, because we're all connected, everything's connected, and really at the end of the day, we don't know, in this physical body, having separated from the energetic bodies and the subtle bodies, or as some people call the spiritual world, the invisible world, the occult world. But we are connected, and if we are allowing ourselves to be enough in touch with our own truth, as you're saying, and our honesty to ourselves, that connection becomes truthful, honest, to the very next step in our lives almost, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And even what appears to the mind a mishap or a mistake or whatever is actually just another step. Like sometimes you miss a turning, you go, oh, I've discovered just something that I was looking for all my life.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
100%.
Yeah, wonderful. And again, I imagine, and you said, you know, Feng Shui is part of this and your energetic consciousness. I'm wondering, for people who they might have had that very restrictive view of, you know, place a mirror here in the room and this and that. It seems like because you've been living with Feng Shui so long, you superseded the basics of where people might just read a book and so on, to really integrating into this holistic, connective, complementary way. And I have one question for you. Feng Shui then, and this energetic working brings different modalities together, because nowadays we're on top of everything else, challenged in the home environment by poisons, name them, you have them, cleaning substances, fire retardants, you know, all the plastics, the paints, everything, the carpets, the door handles, the artificial wood, whatever it's called, I forget the name. I mean, have it, you know, name it, you have it, it's gassing, you know, and then to the water we drink and everything else. How would you say, in your approach to helping people to heal and come into this harmony again and balance, do you see other modalities that could help together with what you're doing with your energetic and Feng Shui work?
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful question, first of all, Hans. I'm so grateful to you that you have brought this subject up, because, you know, let's face it, you know, there's a lot of information out there about all these wonderful things that take you back to nature and stuff. Yet this is the world we live in, right? In fact, 5G is about to come about.
Yes.
Right? And you know, it's about, do I run off to the mountains and become a hermit, or do I stay here in modern life? And how does all of this come together? And how do we make sense of it in a way that is practical, common sense, useful, and genuinely will help us in our lives in a way that doesn't mean changing our lives to such a degree that actually for most people it wouldn't be possible, right? So one of the reasons why I decided to practice Feng Shui professionally and in my life ongoingly, and personal energetics, is because of that very first sentence that I read when I first came to it. So for anybody who wasn't listening to the other podcast, first of all, do go back and listen to it.
Absolutely.
But secondly, this sentence that I've read that was massively shifting for me, and I still refer back to it 30 years later, you know, quite often, is this: that if it exists in this world, it does have a place and it does have a purpose. So what this is telling us is that everything is perfect as it is, even the contaminations, even these things, for some reason, in some way, shape or form, they are moving us as a society and a civilization and a human generation. They're helping move us forward. You know, look, when there is a war zone, you could say, I'm crazy if I say to you, but there's some incredibly wonderful and miraculous things happening at the same time in the same place. You say, no, people are being bombed and maimed and tortured and suffering. But hang on a second, have you noticed in your lives that when the worst stuff happens to you, somebody in your family or one of your friends comes along and shows you a whole new level of love that you didn't even know that they possessed for you? A willingness to be there for you in a way that you didn't even have a clue or comprehend. And how does that make you feel in the middle of these dark days, right? So first of all, let's not make all these contaminants and everything bad, okay? But let's see them for what they are: unhealthy generally.
Yeah, it's good to be about them, but not be in fear again. And
absolutely,
and that's an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, when I go on my mountain retreats, I pick somewhere that has no phone reception, no Wi-Fi. I go off-grid where possible, right? But the rest of the time, I'm here in London City with all its pollution, volatile energy, all sorts of stuff going on that's great and awful and all of it, right? And so what I would like to say to you, going back to your question, is that first of all, it's all good.
Okay.
Let's accept it for what it is. And secondly, you know, every little step that you can take towards a healthier direction is a phenomenal step. So when I use Feng Shui with my clients, they are quite often astounded is probably not a strong enough phrase. Actually, I can't think of a strong enough phrase right now. But they're quite shocked at how I insist, let's go back to the basics and do some really small tweaks first of all.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do some really, really small tweaks first of all. And that's because, yeah, absolutely. And that's because, you know, what we're looking for is a healthy change going forwards forever, permanently. That's going to have a big impact across your life. Not a short, sharp burst of energy that you cannot maintain, that in the moment gave a great result that you'll never forget, and then the rest of their life you're thinking back to it and thinking, oh, but that was so good. And here I am still in this quagmire, right? So what the way I explain it to people, and I'm going to use a £2 coin here to show you, is if this was a giant tire that was bigger than me or you, Hans, and we had to move it forward, it would be hard, right, at first, but as we got it moving, guess what, it will get easier and we'll need less contact with it, and suddenly it gets to a point where we'll touch it occasionally with the tip of our finger and it's doing its job, and it's called momentum. That's the power of energy. You know, you will hear phrases like in flow. That's what it means, basically. So we always start with the basics, because what we want to do is start off slow, meaningful and intentional, and then we're going to get this momentum going so that it runs itself. You go into flow, it becomes easier over time. So with Feng Shui, this is a powerful principle that I use with all my clients. We're going to set you up for a future that is miraculous. Yeah.
And does that mean then also, when you say you start with the small steps, you might end up doing several visits, fine tweak, and then like touching the tire, it's less and less of a touch, but in the beginning you might shift things and...
When I have my initial conversation with somebody, I tell them from the start, I do not work with people in the way a traditional Feng Shui consultant used to work in the past. I will not make one visit and leave you to it. That's it. If that's what you're looking for, there's some great consultants out there. I don't say that's a bad way of working, but I have found that in order to set my clients up for a successful future ongoingly, that we're looking to put something in place that's going to keep going even after I've left them. You know, so yes, it's a process. And let's think about this, Hans. In all of life, human life, nothing is just a one-stop thing. Everything is a process. Our bodies go through a process, our thoughts, everything. So why wouldn't this be a process in order to be successful too?
And we're trying to shift old habits of things that were very stuck. So it does that re-impulsing, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Now, if you were to give people 3 solutions to the steps, these little tweaks that you said in the beginning, these first baby steps that people could do in their home, in their gardens, in their own lives, really come into a better place to then accelerate, build up the momentum, what would you suggest to them to do?
Okay, so I'm looking down at my desk here because I wrote them down. I really put some thought into this because, you know, I wanted to acknowledge that all of you watching and listening, you know, there's a really diverse range of in who you are, your life experiences, how willing you are, how unwilling you are. Remember, nothing's bad here. Nothing's good or bad. It just is what it is. it becomes good or bad when we have conversations. Okay, so we will step completely out of judgment here. And so I've come up with 3 things for you. These are 3 tips that I think if you play a game, let's play a game, all of us. I'm going to ask all of your listeners to play this game. Maybe play this game over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So allow some time. Okay. And then, you know, send in, I hope you appreciate what I'm about to say, Hans, but send in your feedback and your results to Hans. Let him know how you got on. Hans, maybe you'll send them on to me. Let me know. And, you know, if there's, and you know, if you want to carry on the conversation based on that, I'd be more than willing to. But for now, let's play a game over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So first of all, this podcast is being recorded and going out in the spring season. Okay. And remember, we talked about the energy of time. So spring is the time when nature, you look all around your, you know, look out there, everybody, you know, if you're in a position to do so, look out the window, step up and just look out at what's going on in nature, and you'll see that new shoots are coming out of the ground. We're seeding things in the ground. Even all across nature, it's all about new things, beginnings. Okay, and we want things to be as easy as possible. We're not into hard work. Let's be honest here. I will say this to my clients. We're not looking to do the hard work option. There's no glory in suffering. Okay, we always look for the easy option. That's called flow. So springtime, I want you to think back to all those New Year's resolutions that you made back at the start of January, all the ones that didn't work and all the ones that you've started that you might still be doing. And if you are, congratulations. And if you didn't carry on with them, don't give yourself a hard time. It's okay. It's all good, right? This is the time of year to actually start them. Okay, and what I would like you to do is pick one thing and pick its easiest form. Okay, so remember this. Okay, we're going to start off small. You are not going to stand in front of this tire and imagine that you're going to get it going within 10 seconds at 20 miles per hour. It's just not going to happen. But if you decide, you know what, I'm just going to get it. You probably can't even see that. I'm just going to get it, just get it moving a little. Just shift it slightly like that. Can you see that, Hans?
Yep.
Yeah. We're not even going to decide we're going to move it a whole quarter. We are literally just going to get it moving. That's all. So with your goal, whatever it may be, I know a goal that a lot of people decide on for some reason at the start of January is, let's have a think, might be losing weight or becoming healthier. It might be changing your diet, or it might be I'm gonna get organized at work, or it might be I'm gonna get up 1 hour early. Whatever it is, I want you to simplify it down to its easiest form, its smallest step. And over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I want you to just take that step consistently. That's all we're going to do. So if your goal was losing weight, okay, and you know, for example, that generally speaking, you tend to get quite a bit of exercise in your daily life, then maybe what you want to do is decide, I tend to have 4 coffees a day. I'm going to cut it down to 2. We're not even going to make it drastic and say cut it down to 1. You're going to cut it down by just 1 coffee or 2 coffees. Or what you might decide is I'm going to swap one of those coffees in the day for green juice. Whatever it may be, keep it really simple. Or maybe you're going to decide, you know what, a really great one to do, by the way, that's life changing, is to have warm lemon water at the start of your day or throughout the day. If your thing is, maybe your thing was, I'm going to get organized this year, in which case I would suggest you decide when you get into work, the first 10 minutes, is always going to be 10 minutes of planning your day. And the last 10 minutes is going to be 10 minutes of ticking off everything you got done and really feeling good about it. Can you see how simple we're talking here? Really small stuff.
Sounds very effective.
Yeah. But you're going to do this every day or every other day for 2 to 3 weeks and see what happens.
Fantastic.
So, and by the way, if it goes really well that first week, don't step it up. I'm telling you, don't step it up. Just carry on at that level for 2 to 3 weeks.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, I hope for the listener that's going to be a most life-changing tool.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Let me give you.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me give you 2 other ones. These are going to be a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So the tip number 2, everybody wants to be successful in life, right? And we generally live in a world where most people work or they have to take action towards success in some way, shape or form, whether it's financially or they have a job or they run their own business. And Hans, I'm going to ask you to do this too.
Yeah.
Are you up for it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
Okay.
what I would like you to do, and I'm going to get a piece of paper here and I'm going to just do a little diagram. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to work from the northwest in your home or in your office. That's all we're going to do. So I can see you're sat at a desk, right, Hans?
Yep.
Okay, so you might decide to move your desk into a whole other part of the house.
Yep.
Or you might decide just you're going to stick to your office being where it is and you're just going to move it around in your office.
Yep.
And you're going to do 2 things. You want to make sure that you're working from the northwest. Okay?
Yep.
And the second thing, you're going to make sure that there's a wall behind you and you're facing out into the open space.
Right.
The room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So just to be really, really clear, I'm going to repeat that. You're going to move your desk, or if you hot desk like I do quite often, I go and sit in cafes or pretty places. I like to work from really pretty places.
Yep.
And so I take a laptop with me. What you're going to do is you're going to get out your compass. So there's no excuses, by the way, listeners, not having it. Okay, not having it.
It's all on your iPhone now.
So you're going to get out your phone.
Yeah.
None of this costs any money, by the way. What you're going to do is you're going to download a compass app. So on my phone, it's literally called Compass.
Yep.
Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to figure out which is the northwest. Okay. And then you're going to work from the northwest. Do that consistently for 2 to 3 weeks. Remember, it takes time. Okay. And just to show you again, there's the center of the room or the building and you're working in the northwest. Then you're going to make sure that there's a nice wall behind you so you feel comfortable.
So what you're saying is, just to reiterate, you have the wall behind you in the direction of northwest. You're looking actually southeast.
Yeah.
And your desk is on the southeast facing side and you should be looking out the window into open nature.
No, not at all.
No.
I'm really glad you're clarifying this,
Yeah.
Han, because it's even simpler than that.
Okay.
Okay, 2 steps to it. Get yourself in the northwest.
Yeah.
Okay, and then make sure there's a wall behind you. So you could be sat facing this way.
Yep.
You could be sat facing any one of these directions.
Okay.
It's not a problem because you're sat in the northwest. You see that?
Yeah. Okay, and you can face anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Just get yourself in the northwest area and make sure there's a wall behind you. That's it.
Okay.
Is that clear?
So that is very clear, and I'm just realizing that probably I'm sitting in a very awkward place because I got the door behind me also. Instead of because I just feel already where you're driving at, the wall behind you gives you security. And of course, northwest, I don't know what the significance of that is, but I'm sure there's a significance there, is it?
There is a significance for the rest of this year. So this only applies to 2019.
Okay.
Obviously, if you listen to this podcast beyond 2019, and I hope people do for many, many years to come, then just, just contact me. We'll give you the contact details at the end, I'm sure. And then, and I'll give you the one for that year. Okay.
Right. Okay. So it's movable. It's just like the energies are moving.
Yeah. Look, energy never stays stagnant.
Okay. Interesting.
You know this because you work with the land.
Absolutely.
A piece of land never follows the same 4 cycles and doesn't just stay in the same pattern. It changes.
Even on a daily basis, when we just think of the sunlight and the way the plants are exposed differently and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, tip number 3.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to sound super simple, but I want you to remember that the simplest stuff brings about the most significant changes. Really powerful, incredibly miraculous stuff happens when you get simple stuff and you do it regularly like this. Wow. Really. Okay, so tip number 3, I call it emotional processing.
Right.
Okay. Now, this tip is a 100% portable tip. It's not about a particular place. It taps you into, so the tips that I've given you, I don't know if you paid attention to this and noticed, but the first one was based on, remember our triangle? First one was based on time. Yep. The second one is based on environment and space. Okay. The third one is about the most powerful position of energetic access in your world as a human being, you. Okay, your energy. So I call this one emotional processing hands. And it's as simple as this. Every single day, in any moment, stuff happens that impacts us in a significant manner. And here's what I would say to you. When something happens in a day, it could be that you heard something powerful. So in my last podcast with you, I talked to you about, I was listening to a book and it was Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and he said this phrase about humanity is humanity because of your interaction awareness of other people. It's the connection aspect, right? And I heard these words while I was on a treadmill in a gym, and I just literally, honestly, if I hadn't been focusing, I would have fallen off that treadmill. That's how powerfully they impacted me. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was scrambling for my phone to rewind it, to listen to the words again. So imagine this, it's quite funny. It was genuinely that funny to watch, I'm sure. And in that moment, something impacted me. So what I did was I switched off the recording for a moment and I let myself just be with that phrase. I let it float in my space. I let my space inside me, my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts adjust around it. Think about what does that mean to me? Why did that feel so impactful? Right? So I would say to you guys, in any day, at any moment, when something happens, you hear something, you say something, it can be anything. It can be something you've seen. It basically comes at you from any one of your 5 senses. Okay, it can be taste, touch, smell. What are the other senses, Hans? Help me out. Taste, touch, smell, listening, vision. Thank you. Thank you. What you do is, if it feels like it's important, first of all, ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important or impactful did this feel? If it's anything above 6 or 7, stop. Stop. Give yourself time to process it.
Okay.
Okay.
Absolute sense. Yeah.
Because something is important, something really important is happening to you in that moment. It could be that the universe is downloading something into you. This is the matrix that all these interviews are about, right? It could be that you, from inside of you, your soul is speaking out, you know, and these are very sort of spiritual ways that I'm describing this. So let's talk about it in a practical way. In a practical way, your biology might be shifting in that moment, your epigenetics, right? In a practical way, it could be that you're about to get an idea that is going to significantly impact the project that you've been working on for the last 6 weeks if you pay attention to it. Okay, so tip number 3 is when something happens that feels important, quickly ask yourself, where is this on a score of 1 to 10? If 10 is really, really the most powerful event in my life, or really important, and 0 is, you know what, it really doesn't matter. If it's anything from a 6 or 7 upwards, stop. Take a few minutes, ask yourself a few questions, just be with it. Allow it to be something significant. Allow it to change you. And then, yes, carry on with your world. And in those few moments, you might have realized something about yourself, and therefore changes happen as a result of natural flow. Or it could be that you literally stopped, you paid attention, and you make a decision, a conscious decision to change something. Or you just receive something in a different way. You know, it could be that you had a conversation that hurt you 6 weeks ago, and in that moment you heard something that made you see it in a different way, and the hurt dissipates. So just allow whatever it is to happen, and that is tip number 3. And your triangle of tips is complete with that.
Beautiful. Very powerful. Very grateful you brought these few points. They're so basic. Creating that presence again in our lives. I think I certainly, I'm sometimes too much in my head. And even if I'm in the garden, you know, you think about things, but the presence of everything, to take it in. And as you say, when it's really impactful, to be even more so here and allow that space. I think that's a beautiful gift you have given us in this end now towards the end of the interview, because I think we need to round up. And I have so many questions left for you, which I know we will have to do a 3rd sequel on this, because I know also you, with all the advice and all the wonderful experiences and insights you've given us, you have also launched a new product line, also based on your amazing experiences in Feng Shui and energetic healing and all that. And I want to get that out there also with you, and touch as many souls as possible with those beautiful qualities that you're putting out in your artistic way and in your innovative way. So just as a last word maybe that you would like to give us today of advice or experience or shout out to people, and then we'll see also where people can reach you and how they could learn about Feng Shui.
Okay, so I would say that if there was one thing that I wanted to end with, and if there was nothing else you took away from our time together with you listening and myself and Hans having this incredibly beautiful conversation, I would say just, you know, when we go through life, we quite often are so externally focused that we forget ourselves, and we forget that we can't do good in the world until we feel right within ourselves. Okay, that it all starts within. So just for a second, look at the universe. Okay, a cell in the body, a single cell in the body has a center, a nucleus, and then the rest of the cell revolves around that. Look at the planet. The planet has a core with a strong point of gravity, and everything on the planet is affected by that gravity. Look at the solar system. We have this incredible force of power called the sun, and all these planets and their life depends on the sun and revolves around it. You look at a city, the city grew up from being a town and a village and a hamlet, because it's a society, a tribe that's building up from the center outwards. So remember that you are the center of your universe. You are the PowerPoint. So every now and then, take time, take stock, look in at yourself, not necessarily just from your head space, from your heart space too, and pick any subject that day. It could be your health, it could be how do I feel, it could be where are my thoughts going lately, and just recenter yourself, because it will be very, very powerful when you do that. I do this regularly, by the way, and my life has changed. My energy levels have gone whoosh through the roof as a result, and I promise it will do the same for you too. And please share out these tips to as many people as you can. Share the podcast that Hans does. They're very powerful. It's important for us all to help each other as much as we can, but always start with the core, which is you, your center.
Thank you for that outstanding message that you're giving us here at the end of this wonderful conversation and sharing. And as you say, I appreciate you saying that. Let's share it with loved ones, with family members, with friends, acquaintances, as many people. Let's this tribe grow as fast and as strong and powerful as we can. And where will people be able to reach you?
Okay, so I have a number of places that you can find me. You can make direct contact me through each one of these. The best place to make direct contact with me through is my main website, which is www.kurlyfengshuimaster.com, .co.uk. And Hans, please do share out, because obviously there's spellings in there that people need to get right, as well.
We got all the hands to put on the show notes. Thank you.
Fantastic. Then I have a strong Facebook presence. My Facebook page is Kurly the Feng Shui Master, and I'm on there at least a couple times a day, so it's a great way of getting hold of me. And then the product that I created, which is for new parents and babies, so it's for all of us from the start of our journeys in this world, is called the website is www.littleangelnavigator.com, and the Instagram for that is Little Angel Navigator as well. And I really encourage people, when you listen to these podcasts, give some thought to why the universe might have sent it to you, what you've heard, what it means to you, and send feedback into Hans, because we can help people more when that conversation is two ways, and Hans can then obviously know what it is you want to know more about, or where your interest lies. And obviously please reach out to me. I would love to help you, and I do give out lots of free content as well.
That's fantastic. And yes, we want those feedbacks from you. We want those questions, the burning questions, those life-changing questions that you might have, because the quest is about the question, and the answer is buried in your questions, and we might be able to help you to reflect back to you your questions in a different light, maybe a different perspective. And all that in community, we grow, because we do need each other, and we can support each other. With that premise that you put out before, always come back home to yourself, to your heart, to your center, and not just to the head, because the heart is the biggest center and the strongest center, even as a neurological organ. So let's put that love out. As you said before, where there's love, there is no fear, even though we might feel the fear, but let's be that community of love and unison and support each other. And I give great thanks to you, Kurly, for being with us again today. And I will call you in soon again to put all the work out that you're doing and your wonderful contributions in a wholesome way, because it feels like there's still something missing. And to add to this, the trilogy. And thank you, everybody. As the Healing Matrix, we are so pleased to have you on board, and spread the word. let this community grow, and we'll see Kurly back with us soon.
Thank you.
Blessings and goodbye to everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful life.